Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast for agency owners, hosted by agency veteran and coach Steve Guberman. Agency Bytes is a podcast focused on delivering actionable agency information from agency experts in about 25 minutes. Why 25 minutes? Because who has the attention span for much more these days? And you can squeeze in a listen between meetings with time for a bathroom break or coffee refill before your next meeting.
Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast dedicated to helping agency owners thrive. I'm Steve Guberman from Agency Outsight, where I coach creative entrepreneurs to build the agency of their dreams. Today, I'm joined with Jon Tsourakis. He's a seasoned leader, marketer, and sales expert. He's the owner and president of Oyova, a national marketing and web development agency where he helps the firm identify and capitalize on new opportunities. Jon, it's awesome to have you here. Very excited to kind of dig into your agency and entrepreneurial experience and background. So thanks for joining me.
No, man, stoked to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So give kind of what's your backstory? How'd you get into the agency space? How'd you launch your shop, and where is it today?
Yeah, so I've told the story a couple other times. I used my family owned a construction company, and I worked for my father, and we got in an argument. He tried to fire me in front of a group of people, and I was going to college at the time, and I told this guy that used to sit next to me and cheat off some of my work. The only reason that guy was in college is because his girlfriend wouldn't date a guy that wasn't in college or didn't have a college degree. So,
sound motive.
Anyway, we were taking marketing classes, and he said, "Hey, my dad and I just started a marketing company. Why don't you come to work for us?" So I went to work for them. That company, was growing and rapidly grew, and I got very corporate and decided to quit in the pit of the recession and do things that were more digital rather than traditional, and that's what got me into it.
So your background is really just traditional marketing and not the digital side of things.
It was until 2008. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was doing there was tons of direct mail. There was some website stuff. There was a lot of newspaper ads. A lot of the things we focused on were related to hearing aids and eyeglasses, things that, the internet wasn't embraced by that audience at that time. And we had website and we were doing some of these other things, and I thought that would be exciting. So yeah, in 2008, I didn't know a whole lot when I quit, and we just it was like figuring out how to, run your own business, and then also figuring out all these digital tactics and then team building and whatnot. There was a lot of things that I didn't know, but I think that's something I tend to do is jump in head first and ultimately figure it out.
Jump in, figure it out, fly the plane while you're building it, kind of thing. Is that so? You launched Oyova in 2008, or
so it was Revital Agency, and then merged in 2019 with my business partner now, and that is Oyova. And then he and I met in a mastermind group, 2011, and then we just stayed in touch the entire time, kind of traded work back and forth. And it was one of those things where if you've ever played music, you're like, oh man, yeah, one day, when we make it big, it was kind of like, oh, well, one day we should merge if these elements come into account. Between 2018 and 19, the economy was roaring and going so well.
Yep.
All right, if we're going to do this, let's do this now. And that's when we decided to do it.
Interesting. So what does he bring to the table, and what do you bring to the table that is the complement that makes the leadership team?
Production. He brings the production to the side and more of what I would say kind of like CFO accounting type functions, where I am very focused on, I love marketing and I love sales, right? Those are the things that really, really drive me. And yeah, it's been a great combination between the two of us, and things are going pretty well. They can always go better though, Steve. Let's not lie to ourselves. Actually, I'm kind of bullshitting you there. The last year has been pretty tough. Yeah. So we've got some things in place that I believe are going to be some game changers.
So you're, what is it, a dozen years now as partners?
Ooh, no, 5 years as partners. We've known each other for, about 12 years, 12, 13 years.
Okay. And so this year, so just to timestamp it, it's, we're in the beginning of Q4 in 2024. It has been an interesting year for agencies. What's been the, I guess, evolution of Oyova for you guys over the past 5 years, and what's this year been like for you?
Yeah. So when we merged, it was tons of like frenetic energy. It was very exciting, right? Because it was like, okay, we had all these plans and you get to execute those plans. So growth was super rapid, hit Inc. 5000, I think 3 times. So we're just like pow, 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 just kept growing. And then over the last, let's say, year and a half, you saw the economy just skid to a stop, right? So we had some of our largest clients pull back where they decided to take that work internally, which to me is all right. That's a signal saying, all right, they're strapped for money, and also the job market. There's so many people within tech and marketing that have been laid off that the job pool that they can select and get really good talent for a reasonable rate was really high. So that was some of the mechanics that happened there. And there was 2 other, like our second and third largest accounts, also did something very similar. So that had an impact. And then replacing those accounts, protracted sales cycles. So everything that was taking, a month to close to 2 months, I mean, it would take 6 to 8 months to close those same deals, like just tons and tons of follow-up. So I would say those are some of the factors. And then also trying to get new deals into the funnel, you have to work so much harder. Like if you were spending $3,000 a month, you're spending anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 a month. If you had outreach and you're sending 10,000 emails a month, you'd have to do 30 to 40,000. Like everything just had to intensify just to keep your status quo. And I've seen it different in other friends' agencies that are hyper niche focused. But the weird thing is, I have a friend, his agency is focused on movers, right? Nobody's moving in the country. Dude, his business is like, everything but gone. But there's other people that are focused in other areas where it's like, pet grooming or something like that. And they're absolutely crushing it because people are still, taking their dogs to like doggy daycare and so forth. So yeah, it's just been, I think, to not sound trite, it has been an interesting year.
But that's an interesting thing to pick up on. So, and I've seen the same trend. Agencies that are all things to all people and generalists, they're having a much tougher time putting deals in the pipeline. They're having a much tougher time, obviously, differentiating themselves. I'm seeing more small agencies get massive clients that ordinarily would have gone to the holding companies. And to your point, those that are niched in really good verticals are crushing it this year. So where do you fall into any of those spaces? Do you guys have specialty verticals that you play in? Are you niched in any way?
We do, but they're saturated, right? So we do like home services and legal and whatnot. There's huge players in that. I was speaking to another agency that focuses on legal, and all they do is legal. We do tons of stuff across the board. And he said there's over 300 that he's just identified that just do legal alone. Right? Yeah. That's incredible. So that's just what he's identified over the last few years. Who knows what that number is? But yeah, we are, to our own fault, we would work with anybody, and we never really had that specialization. Of course, we have the stories and the case studies when we speak to that person, but from a targeting issue, we didn't position ourselves properly, and that's something that we're changing now.
Yeah. There's a ton of legal focused, and seeing them start to expand it into, we do B2B service groups as opposed to just law. So they can do CPAs, same vibe, that kind of space. But being in a few services. B2B professional services. But being in a few verticals, I think, is so important. I was talking to a guy recently who does house painting companies, but not like just a guy with a paintbrush, like a couple of trucks kind of company. And they're also destroying it, like, multiple 7 figures, really high profitability because they've dialed in their systems, they've dialed in their inbound, SEO. There are certain verticals where they're going to respond to Google Ads, SEO, things like that. Law firms are not going to respond to that. Certain size clients are not going to respond to that. But there's certain verticals that you can really do well in, pumping up your own SEO, your own PPC, things like that.
Yeah, man. I remember when I learned about niching, it was like 12 years ago, and there was a gentleman, and he focused just on YMCAs. And I think within like 3 or 4 years, he had like 80 or 90% of the YMCA market.
Wow.
He did their websites, he did all their marketing. Yeah, just incredible. And dude, I didn't listen. I mean, I think it was part of his ego. And the other part was I was always concerned that my team would get bored, because I don't think anybody wakes up and says, my purpose in life is just to create ads for AC and HVAC companies.
Right.
And I think in that, ultimately, the health of your company, you're jeopardizing it with that type of mindset. And if you look at like niching into things that are just fun, right? Where it's like, oh man, we're just going to do like outdoor sports places that, create snowboard ads and dirt bikes. It's like, okay, all right, everybody's trying to get into that space. So you really have to and really claw for that work. So there's finding, all right, is there any white space left where there's a market that you can target? Is it something that you can reasonably enjoy that you, from a value standpoint, and then figure it out. But I love the painting company, man. I've heard of like morticians and, auto body shop, like all of these specialty type places. So I'm all about it now.
I also fought it when I had my agency, and also a lot of it was ego. And when I finally got that out of the way, I was like, all right, I don't want to just be, for one vertical. And so I was taught, Blair Enns talks about in his Win Without Pitching manifesto, he talks about like own a couple of verticals. And I was like, all right, 3 sounds a little sketch, because what happens if one of those industries tanks, right
man?
We saw it during COVID, travel, tourism, food and beverage, restaurant, there's a handful of, verticals that just completely went away. And if you're like, that's all of your energy, you're done. Right.
Yeah,
so
man.
I fought it, and I also didn't want my team to get bored. And so we over time leaned into it and carved out, like, you've got historical evidence of financial services, consumer, banking, things like that, higher ed. We did a lot in tech, consumer tech, so we were able to carve it out. And if nothing more, I don't remember what our website might have said, but if nothing more, it let me know who I need to target for biz dev and marketing, because now we can be the agency that does consumer tech events or, consumer tech branding or things like that. So just from a marketing standpoint, I was like, oh, I'm glad I did this. And the reality is the team never got bored. If anything, they got annoyed with me for whatever, but from a client standpoint, they loved it. What's your guys' kind of mindset on, how are you taking care of clients? You talked about white glove, customer service. Like, are you maintaining clients for really long periods of time? Are you seeing more attrition recently than normal? Where do you
knocking on wood? That's why I'm bending down real quick. No, we've had some clients for 15 years. So we were very white glove, where I've seen kind of a trend for some agencies where they try to like productize, and they essentially create this production line that to me is impersonal, right? If you're actually going to do really good work, you have to take a tailored approach to it, right? Like you're creating a suit or a dress for your clients. So we don't have any type of package. So even in the beginning of the sales process, all the way throughout, we're continually doing that. No one size fits all. I believe clients appreciate that, especially if they have the context of working with another agency. So that makes it really important. And the other is lots of meetings, so which they pay for. But at the end of the day, they're completely informed. They know, and at any time, if they're not leading their division or their company, somebody asks them a question, they're going to be right on top of it, because either they're pulling us into a meeting or they already know from one of the conversations they've had.
So it's very account management heavy. Okay. How does that impact your profitability?
It's, if the team's not putting in their time for it, then it gets a little bit out of hand. I'd say our account managers work incredibly hard. They're compensated very well for the work they do. And comparing them to other companies, I'd say in some cases they're paid double or double and a half. I don't even know if double and a half is a word, man.
It is now. We're going to use it.
I was just trying to think of the math, and it was the first thing that came out. But but profitability, right? You would say like, okay, let's say that they're not putting in all of their time, but they do bill for a lot of it. The longevity of the accounts, the LTV, is something that I don't think enough people focus on. So if you've had an account for 15 years and they're paying, anywhere between $10,000 to $12,000 a month, that's some serious LTV.
Yeah. You'll have some hills and valleys of profitability, but in the long run, absolutely, there's a good lifetime there. Yeah, I love that. And talk about like the services. What are you guys delivering? You're not jumping back to the traditional direct mailers that you did 20 years ago, but what's the overall delivery these days?
It's funny you mentioned that. Somebody just asked for direct mail the other day, and I was like, we got a partner for that, brother.
I just read an article about direct mail taking off again, and it seems to be in these waves where, it's really effective at some point.
Yeah, dude, everything comes in cycles and seasons, right? Yeah. Like you have, book sales are down from like a paper version, and then they come back. Or dude, like baggy pants the other day. I used to skateboard a lot, and I saw this guy. I'm in Chicago, and he was, about to hit this rail. I was like, dude, that was literally me like 25 years ago. Like it's crazy.
He was wearing the Jankos.
Yeah, pretty much, dude. Yeah, dude. I don't even remember what the question was, man. Forgive me. What was your question?
What's your general delivery? Like what kind
Oh,
of
sorry. Yeah.
services are
So
you
we have
guys
two
really doing?
divisions. Yeah. So we have two divisions. We have our web and app division, and then we have our digital marketing
Okay.
division. The thesis was and anybody that's thinking about merging should know this. Like, if you're like, oh, hey, we just do marketing and we're going to link up with a web development company or so on and so forth. It looks good on paper, but the cross pollination is not very realistic because the
Mm-hmm.
number of projects you're going to have to pull in to feed one other side just isn't going to happen. And then people usually have that already solved in some other manner. Now, if you go down market, it makes more sense. Up market, it doesn't. So
Yep.
the services that we have, so it's a digital marketing suite, really strong in SEO, paid ads. We do social, organic, and paid, and that's the majority of the work that's done on that side. And then on the website, we do a lot of WordPress and Shopify, and then we have a small .NET team for some web apps and whatnot.
Wow. So you're the last agency doing .NET. Good to know. Okay.
We're a holdout, man. I said it's a small
Yeah.
team. Well, yeah, we'll see how long it
Yeah.
lasts.
Yeah. What is the DNA of the team? What's the structure that you have there?
And so
The overall
far
team.
as, well, a few years ago we were at 37. Right now we're down to 20. So when I say our .NET team is pretty small, we have one .NET person left, down from
Yep.
I think at our height we had like 5. So yeah, we have. I think we're up to right now. We're like 12 WordPress developers, 2 account managers, 1 project manager, and the rest makes out the marketing team.
Love it. Yeah, sounds like a healthy mix of the team and supporting the business that you guys are doing and the work you're doing. What are some of the ideas that you guys have had, and if they're super top secret, but just the adaptability of what's needed this year to continue to thrive in a down market?
Really, really solid pricing. And I mean,
Yeah.
you can scream all day long like, oh yeah, we're billing 200 an hour, and then if somebody's going to be able to see the value in that, and there's somebody else that was billing 200 an hour, and you're going to be competing up against them, they're going to come to the table with the same thing, and they're going to win based on just pricing as their differentiator from a value standpoint. So have really solid pricing. We've done that by we've outsourced some functions. So that was something we only had U.S. labor. So now we're working with some team members in Europe based on design, and then we also have some in Mexico based on some other things on our marketing side. So contractors, right? So 20 FTEs. Leveraging some contractors to get into that. And as we spoke to earlier, the niching. So showing that specialization that you have, whether it's vertical or horizontal, can be a real game changer, because right now everybody's so tight with their purse strings, whatever it takes to give them that trust signal necessary so they're going to actually sign your agreement.
Yeah.
By all means, man, like lean into all of those things.
Yeah. I love that you kind of came back to the horizontal and vertical split of niching. There's another, I don't know if you'd call it some kind of a cross section of the two, but I'm thinking of agencies that have a specific style, think like Lincoln Design Co. Like they've got a very specific style that would work for a lot of different verticals. Their services kind of run a lot of different services, but they've got a really distinct style that they're known for, and I think they're sought out after for, but they're still in like the motocross, industrial space primarily. But yeah, so I think that's an interesting thing about. You also said money and rates and fees and things like that. And I'm glad you weren't like race to the bottom. Who can charge the least? That's how we're going to win. You're maintaining a healthy top line, billing rate in order to win new clients' trust, because they see that as, hey, if you're charging a lot, you must be doing really good work. You've got a good team. Like, is that the mindset behind that?
In most cases, but some of the questions I ask is, so a couple things. One is, what has to happen here so you're going to choose us? That's a very important question, right? So the team will ask that during the sales process. And then the other is, if you're long in the deal and you're going up against a couple others, it's okay, what has to happen for us to win, right? So essentially asking that in multiple different phases. So sometimes they're going to say, hey, this is the number that you need to be at now because somebody else is in there. So we'll look and have those conversations. We don't stick up our nose and say like, no, the price is the price. So I'd say, yeah, right now, if somebody's not willing to wheel and deal, then they deserve to lose, because things are just not really strong in the agency space. It's oversaturated. Everybody got fat, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was amazing for the last 10 years or more, and now this is the reality. So people have to get very, very competitive. Get as much as you can, but realize the business has way more options than they did just a couple of years ago.
I think it's more micro than that. I think it's a smaller time frame than that. And I think we saw a ton of tech layoffs 2-3 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. All these really smart creative people said, I'm going to hang up my own shingle and open my own agency. And now we're starting to see that, hey, this is a really tough gig. I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
find a job. And so a lot of agencies in the past, I'd say, this year at least, a good amount of agencies have shut their doors. And I don't know that they ever had really a true runway to build a really competitive shop, but they were certainly getting their hands on a lot of the deals that you might have been bidding for and that kind of thing. And so hopefully as we get into Q1 next year, we're going to see some of that competition, the space just being overcrowded, hopefully thins out a little bit. That's my hunch, at least. That's my prediction I'm hoping for.
I love that optimism. Yeah, I spoke with literally just last night. A guy met him about a year and a half ago, and he had a shop with 25 people, right? And then we, got coffee like 6 months ago, and he was down to 13. Last night, we
Wow.
talked to him. He's like, "Yeah, right. It's just my founder and me."
Wow.
So I know, like, just doing whatever it takes to hold on. So, and seeing that with a lot of other agencies, and they're super app focused. Like, that's all they do is apps. So they have that horizontal focus. I think just iOS. And yeah, so I think the market's affecting everybody, but it's those who hang on and figure it out that are really going to get that payoff if everybody gets out of the market.
Yeah, my fear with app developers is they're heavily invested in other investors, and investment funds are down something like 60% this year. So
Yeah.
if startups aren't getting their money, they're not buying apps. They're not building apps, rather. So
Right.
that's a
Money's
scary
expensive.
spot to be in.
Yeah.
Money's very expensive. Yeah. Yeah. What are some other things that you guys are looking forward to as hopefully we come out of this down year for agencies?
I think it's just being one of the things I like to say to the team is just being the best at whatever it is that we're doing. Right. We've won some awards and whatnot. I mean, it's not something we go after rather heavily, but I would like to get really deep focus in some of these niches. I'm from the South. That's what we say. We don't say niches. And really get my team excited, because when they have that sense of winning, when you have like a winning culture, to me, when you get everybody in a room, there's just this energy that is just contagious, and it just keeps perpetuating, where people are getting kicked in the teeth and they don't feel like they're getting ahead, or whether it's outranking somebody, whether it's, having a super solid, ROAS report to show. That to me is hard on the team, because they hold themselves to a really high standard. So that's something I'm excited about next year. And then also too, doing some acquisitions. So market's going down. This is something I'm excited about. Is I'm not trying to sound like the Wolf of Wall Street or anybody that's just greedy, but I mean, there's going to be some very valuable firms that are out there that can be helped by a purchase or a merger. Yep. And that is something we'd like to do for ourselves to create a force multiplier. So that's something I'm also very excited about.
Is that something you guys have done before?
Well, we merged ourselves together, and then in 2000, I think it was like 2021, we were speaking with a handful of agencies to do some acquisitions. And I don't know if we weren't completely prepared for it, or we just got a bundle of some of the biggest duds. I mean, dude, like Steve, we would get people all the way to the finish line, and then agencies that hadn't moved the needle in like 5 years, like, you know what, we're going to take a couple more years and we're going to go ahead and get the valuation up. It was like, dude, nothing has happened in 5 years. Like, well, what's going to change? So that happened. And from what I understand, we need to speak to like 100 agencies to actually get something that makes sense. So that's where we're shaping our mindset, rather than, all right, we're going to talk to like 15 or 20. So like I said earlier, the metrics in sales, it's also when it comes to the M&A side.
I'd be curious to see those agencies that you spoke to that at the finish line pulled the plug. Did they do the work they said they were going to do? Because I bet you they didn't.
That's a great question. I got to put them in touch with you, man.
Check back on them. If they're not doing the work, have them call me. If they are doing the work, actually, if they're not doing the work, make them an offer, because they haven't moved the needle yet. So probably get it at a fire sale. There's even the acquisition game, I think, slowed down a lot this year. Coming into Q1, there was a lot of people last year, a lot of agencies that went through some, either end of an M&A. I knew, plenty that were looking to you do some roll ups and bring in, even if they were aqua hires, like let's bring in a small team, let's bring in your clients, let's expand into new verticals. And that has slowed down drastically. So I love that you got your eye on that. I think it's a great way to, infuse your team and infuse your clients and, bring in a whole new mindset to the organization. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man. If they're motivated, right? Because there's some
Yeah.
people that, man, they're just so beat down, and it comes in cycles, right? So, and we're in a down cycle, and the agency space is not going to go away. It's just going to change. We just
Yeah.
have to adapt. And I know some people that they just rather shut the doors and even try to get anything for what they have. They're just so beat down, and it just sucks when somebody's in that mental state, in that position.
Yeah. I'm very transparent about my history. I was there. We had just lost our biggest agency of record client. I had to lay off some people. I would just finish my divorce. So like all those things destroyed my ability to, confidently go out and win new business. And so we were flat for a while. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I sat my team down and I was like, I think I just want to like close the doors and go get a job. And if you want it, I'll help you learn how to do it and whatever. And they were all a super young team. They didn't want to be a boss. And then I was like, oh, wait, my brother was like, hey, dude, you built something, shop it around, sell it, and so that changed my direction of shut the doors. No, there's something here worth, with some value that you can sell. So I get it when people are beat down. It's been a rough year, so.
That's cool. Your brother had that conversation though. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. People, when the bad things start happening, they get so insular. And they just don't want to hear anything. And your brother was able to like break through that and say, dude, like, hey, how about this?
Yeah.
And that's important. Hopefully somebody gets this from listening to this podcast. We're like, oh, yay, man. It's just, there's always something good to get around the corner. You just have to have the energy and strength to make it around that corner.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I had gotten a really high level job offer from a telecom company. And I told my brother, I was like, yeah, I'm going to shut the door. I'm going to take this offer. And he was like, you will absolutely kill yourself if you go back to corporate. And I was like, oh yeah, thanks for the reminder. That was really what it was. And so, I'm glad I didn't do that. I can't imagine how life would have turned out, but things worked out really great. So, but to your point, like take a risk, open up, let people know where they're at. And like, it's a rough year for a lot of people. So nobody's alone. You know what I mean?
No, man. Yeah. And then somebody that's like, hey, hey, it's amazing and everything over here. Cool. Get in their world, find out why and like how that's working. And if they're not willing to share it, they're probably, just bullshit, man. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Even listen, and I coach a lot of agencies. I talk to a ton of agencies, even the ones that are having good years. It's not as good as they had hoped. It's not what they had planned for. The projections were, a fraction, that kind of thing. So even if it's good, again, there's certainly some anomalies there, but rough year all around. And so I'm doing the dance, hoping for snow and hoping it's a better year next year for sure.
I love it, man. I love it. No, and it's going to be what we make of it, man. So
that's it.
Plans in place.
Cool. I want to shift gears, throw a couple of random rapid fire questions at you.
Let's do it.
Just to wrap it up. So what is something that you've recently integrated into your life? It can be digital, physical, business, personal, that you look back and you're like, how the heck did I live without this thing before? And it can't be AI.
That's a good question. Yeah. Man, my answer probably was going to be AI. Just
everybody's answers. No, ChatGPT.
Yeah. All right. Something that I've integrated in my life that I haven't used before. Oh man. All right, dude. This is going to sound pretty lame. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
That's my daily go-to.
Dude, I stopped eating them for like 20 something years. And now it's like, yeah, I'm crushing them, man. And I don't know how I went 20 years without it.
Quick, easy, nostalgic. Well, yeah. How could you go wrong?
So good. Yeah. And I eat probably the unhealthiest peanut butter, but it's the tastiest and I don't care. Yeah.
What's the brand?
It's the Trader Joe's. They don't even call it peanut butter. They call it creamy peanut spread.
Yeah. My fiance uses that. I stick to Skippy or Jif. I think it's Skippy I like. Yeah.
Okay.
The sugary one. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
What's something that you are binging the heck out of these days? A book, a podcast, a hobby, a show, or whatever?
I do a lot of comedy podcasts. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of those. I think Bad Friends is probably one of the ones I'm listening to the most right now. It's a pretty good one. And then as far as shows, dude, I like go for I watch boring detective shows.
Okay.
Like It's my wife. She's all about watching The Penguin, which is good. So that's a good one that I would highly recommend. Colin Farrell's done an amazing job. But dude, like I go to like Monk and like Murder She Wrote and like some of the most boring detective shows. Not Matlock yet, but because I like it, it ties up at the end. There's not a whole lot of stress, and it's just something you can pretty much fall asleep to.
Nice. Yeah. I'll have to look it up. I can't remember the name of it, but we binged through a detective show. It was with the guy from The Americans. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll look it up.
Oh, dude, yeah, I saw that one. It's that was a Mason, like the Perry Mason one.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was like a remake of Mason. It was really good. Yeah,
yeah. If there's a detective show, there's a chance. Like I've seen
it.
I don't know what it is. That genre, man. I think it's because I just crushed on Sherlock Holmes books. When I was a kid, like I just kept rereading those.
Yeah, I just started a show last night. Not to go off on a show tangent, but it's not a detective show. It's an ad agency show. It's called the Detroiters. And it's about two guys running an ad agency in Detroit. And I got 2 or 3 episodes in, and it's shtick and it's funny, but agency, and it's way off color, not safe for work. Don't put it on in the conference room. But if you're an ad agency guy or gal, then I think it's appreciable. So,
dude, off color. I mean, I live by that. All right,
yeah, you'll dig that part. And then finally, just to wrap it up, what is just a super invaluable piece of business advice that you can share?
I guess 2. You never know when it's enough until it's more than enough. And then the other is, you don't know what you can take until you really, really push yourself. And I don't think enough people give themselves the opportunity to do that. They give up way too soon.
Yeah. Stop giving up so soon. Love it. Good stuff, John. Really appreciate you. Appreciate your time, your experience, your energy, everything about it, man. Wishing you, the team, and everybody like a kick-ass rest of the year, and hopefully there's an upswing soon. So thank you again for your time.
No, dude, thank you for having me here, Steve. Appreciate everything you do, all your content, man. And just really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. My pleasure.
Thanks again for tuning in to Agency Bytes. If you know someone with expert knowledge on a topic that agency owners would love to hear about, go to agencyoutsight.com/podcast-guest and nominate them.